Hi everybody, it's Neil Shah, Chief De-Stressing Officer at the Stress Management Society and author of the 10-Step Stress Solution. And I'm so excited to get into a conversation with our wonderful guest today. I'm here with Jodie Hill. Jodie Hill is Managing Director and a solicitor at Thrive Law. And I've come across some of her incredible work over the last couple of weeks. Someone recommended her. And as you know, this series that we've been doing for Stress Awareness Month is really about me having conversations with people I like, admire, or I feel like the world needs to hear from. And I think Jodie ticks all three of those boxes. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation. So firstly, welcome, Jodie. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
No, that's absolutely fine. Not a problem.
So I just want to kind of get started by just getting into a little bit about your background, because yes, you're a solicitor and I know that you deal with employment law, but you have a very strong interest in mental health as well, which for me, I find fascinating because I've not come across many solicitors that have such a deep focus and desire to address mental health other than from an employment law perspective. So do you want to start by just giving us a bit of a background about yourself, who you are, what makes you tick, and why you do what you do?
Awesome. Okay, where do I start? Okay, so about 3 years ago, I actually had a mental health breakdown, and that's what's fueled my passion to create a positive culture in terms of workplace, but also instilling that within other organisations. So I had the breakdown. Short story is I then recovered over a period of about 6 months. I then set up my own law firm about 6 months after that. So about a year after the breakdown, I'd actually set my own firm up. I mean, crazy, right? Why would you do that? But actually, I felt like there was a gap. Like you said, there's not many solicitors or law firms really having this focus. So we're the only law firm in the country that has the speciality where we actually focus and drive equality and diversity within the workplace with a huge focus on mental health. So my passion is really from a personal perspective, but obviously having the skills as a lawyer, I actually knew how to fix some of those problems as well. And I'm very solution driven and pragmatic. So what I wanted to do was, first of all, set up a culture where I could actually use those skills. I couldn't go into another firm and do it because I didn't think that there were any firms out there that actually genuinely thought in the same way as me. A lot of companies say they do, but maybe don't quite follow that with their actions. So I set Thrive up 2 years ago, and we're based in Leeds. Just opened an office in London, and during lockdown, which again, madness, what are we doing?
Is there anyone in your London office during lockdown?
Yeah, we haven't. Well, the thing is, we already had a solicitor who was joining us, so it was actually planned. So we'd already got the address and everything. So it's open, but no, we've got the postcode, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But yeah, so within the space of 2 years, we've gone from just me to a team of 10, 2 offices, and won a couple of awards as well, just for all the diversity stuff we're doing. So it's a real driving force behind the business, and we do a lot of other things, not just like you said, the law. So we do lots of events and running initiatives, and just generally trying to debunk some of the myths around mental health in the workplace and some of the legalities, because actually it can be quite complicated. So we just want people to adopt best practice rather than get caught up in the legislation, really.
No, and absolutely. And I think given where we are right now and the circumstance we're facing, I think it's even more important that we look at this than ever before. But just to go back to your personal experience, I just want to start by saying, well, firstly, congratulations on what I would describe as your breakthrough.
Yes,
because the reality is you probably wouldn't be sat here right now having this conversation with me and doing what you're doing on a daily basis if you hadn't had that breakthrough. And I hope it doesn't sound patronizing when I say that. And the only reason I can say that is I had exactly the same experience. 17 years ago, I had a significant breakdown, which ultimately, and this is a part of the story I've actually only shared for the first time about 18 months ago, in the depths of that experience, I basically got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore, and I attempted to end my own life. But I had to get to that point and hit. And absolutely. And unless I got to those depths of the deepest, darkest valley of my life, I don't think I would have even considered how to reinvent and rebuild myself. And ultimately, it led to what I would describe as a bit of a spiritual epiphany, which helped me to realize that actually there was a gift in that experience, and I could use that for positive benefit. And that's why I started the Stress Management Society. And it sounds very much like that was your experience as well.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. And I think it's a really fine line to say kind of, oh, I'm really glad it happened, because obviously I'm not. But equally, I see all the opportunities now, and it's completely shaped the way that I think, the way that I act. And everything in my life is completely different because I've had to rebuild it, like you say, and I've had to really put things into play that I probably wouldn't have thought about before, because I was just cracking on doing what I normally do. And so part of that rebuild also had me thinking, well, how can I help others with this experience? And I know a lot of people in our position do that, and it's exactly what you've done. You're helping others because you've got that lived experience and that ability to share that, and obviously help other people so that they don't have to get to that dark place to actually start that rebuilding process. And I do think it's really important. And I think part of my my rebuild was all around empowering people to make those decisions themselves, and for people to be themselves in an organization truly. And I think there's a lot, especially as lawyers, we're all seen as, most lawyers are, well, the general public generally think lawyers are old, white, stale, male, pale men, and it's that kind of old school traditional look. But I think, I set my firm up when I was 29, and everyone gave me so much crap for it. And they were like, oh, she's going to fail. And, the standard stuff, because, most people don't even qualify till their 30s. And because I'd qualified really young and then carried on. And so I had all of that against me as well, plus the breakdown. I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I currently don't have a job. So I either crack on and put everything into it, or I go get a job from these 5 firms that have offered me jobs. So, the worst case scenario is I get a job, I thought, well, I might as well have a go. And actually, it's the best thing I ever did. So, yeah.
And interestingly, going back to your earlier comment about you're not glad that it happened. I'm confident, in fact, I'm willing to put money on the table, there will be a point in the future, and I can only say this because it happened to me, where I turned around and reflected on my life and the path that my life had taken, the trajectory my life is currently on, and none of that would have happened if I hadn't had that experience. I'm blessed. Yeah. Every day I get to, well, I was going to say every day I get to travel the world doing what I do. Yeah, not at the moment, but I used to travel the world doing something that was allowing me to make a positive difference, and I was getting paid for it. I could genuinely do what I do for free. It's just a bonus that I get paid to do what I do. None of that would have happened if I hadn't had that experience. And I think there's a powerful reframe in that, because when we go through these things, it's like, why me? Why has this happened to me? I wish this wasn't happening. And actually, we realize that the most painful experiences, the most challenging, uncomfortable experiences present the biggest opportunities for growth.
Absolutely. And I always say through adversity, we come out stronger, and it's a massive thing. I've had, that's one of about 5 incidents throughout my life where I've had that kind of moment, but that actual breakdown was probably like you say, the darkest. And
absolutely,
it's at that point that when you actually change the path, rather than continue to try and fight it, I think. So, yeah, no, I do. I massively agree with you on that.
And, as you're saying, like, out of tragedy, out of adversity comes opportunity. And I think this is where collectively we as a society, as a community, as a global civilization, we are facing tragedy and adversity. And this is creating an opportunity to look at how we do things better, both for ourselves, in our families, in our communities, in our organizations. And I think this is something that potentially is a really powerful reset, where I guess the way I've been looking at it is you're working on your computer and it crashes. I'm talking blue screen. You have to restart it. While it's restarting, you're kind of sitting there and, cleaning up your desk and filing bits and, doodling or just, stopping and just staring out the window for a few minutes. But that opportunity, you didn't plan for it, you didn't ask for it, but when it happens, it can end up being a gift because it allows you to reset, refocus.
And just have a cup of tea. Yeah.
And we are basically globally going through a bit of a reboot. And I'm hoping that when the computer fires back up again, it's not going to go back and run with the same problems that it was running before, because we had a lot of problems in terms of how we looked at our health, our well-being. the climate, pollution, environmental factors, consuming unnecessarily. Like, you know, these days you can't go out and buy anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd have thought the world would have come to an end. But actually, like, it's amazing how much stuff we were buying with money we don't have to get things that we don't need. So I think there's a real value and a gift in this opportunity. What are your thoughts around that?
No, I totally agree with you. It's made me reevaluate things. I do, like you say, I travel quite a lot, like you do, and I'm out and about. I'm in different cities all the time, and it's really made me reevaluate. Do I really need to be in my car all that time? Because actually, it's so easy to embrace technology. And I was already using Zoom and, you know, all the tech that people use, but actually it was the kind of go-to was, let's go for a coffee. Why am I doing? I can't drink that much coffee. I don't want to drink that much coffee. Do you know what I mean though? And it's that automatic coffee. But why? Why are we doing coffee? Like a 15-minute call, save us both driving into town, save us both paying for parking, save us both buying the coffee, and save us having an hour where we probably don't need an hour. And when you're really busy running your own business, you know, your time is precious. And this has really helped me to focus and plan my days and actually reset my routine, which I have loved. When we first went into lockdown, I found it really, really difficult. I found I'm a very social person. I like to be around people. And so not being around people and also running a law firm and a team remotely with a really young team, it was a challenge. But do you know what? They took to it really well. And then that gave me the opportunity to look at me, because actually I can't be the best manager for them or be, you know, do what I need to do if I'm not on form. And what I found I was doing, because I was at home, is I was just kind of getting up at 5 a.m. working, and then it was like, oh, it's 10 p.m. It's like, that's such a bad habit. I would never have done that if I was going out and about. So I had to like physically put things in place to make sure that I had a healthy routine. And it's actually reignited my love of journaling. I've started running again. I've started yoga. Like all the things that I kept going, oh, I'll do that next week. I'll do that next week. I've been like, no, you're not traveling now, so you can do it every single day. And I've literally put it on my desk, and because I come into the room, I've got this routine, and I'll come in, do it, and it's in that same order. And it's honestly helped my focus, my mindset so much through the kind of social isolation and the bits where you do feel a bit crap, you know. And don't get me wrong, I still have bad days, and I still, you know, yes, cool. I think I cried yesterday randomly, and I was like, well, why am I doing that? And I was like, oh well, accept it for what it is, and then crack on. And I think ultimately that's what we have to do, because we're not going to feel amazing all the time. So having those routines can help us stay focused, but also like just be kind to yourself. You know, it's not an easy time, and I think people are genuinely really struggling right now. But there are so many positive things you can take from it. So I don't think, yes, it is difficult, and yes, we are missing all those things that we like and loved or whatever. But actually, we don't need a lot of them, and there are other things that we can be doing, and we can actually use this opportunity to have really healthy habits instilled into our daily routine. That's what I've been doing, and I've found it's been really helpful.
And absolutely, and it is okay to not be okay. Yeah. We don't need to be happy, clappy, smiling all the time, you know. And I think that's a lot of the pressure a lot of people put themselves under.
Yeah. I was just going to say on that point, in relation to social media, so because we're not seeing people face to face at the moment, all we're seeing is highlight reels. Everybody's like, look at me, I've run 10 miles. Look at me, I've cycled 5,697,000 miles. And you know what? That's absolutely great. You do you. But there's a lot of people who don't exercise that much or have children, and they can't get out of the house and do these things. So, you know, one of the messages I've been trying to really instill in people is, that's great, but just remember that if you were seeing them face to face, they'd probably be like, do you know what? I had a crap day today. I hate my boss. But you're not doing that because you're not seeing them. So just remember, people have all of the same problems that we all have. And like you say, we have those bad days. But actually don't focus so much on social media, and have a really positive relationship with it. And that really helps if you take it for what it is and then use it in a positive way. Because otherwise I feel like a lot of people are just spiraling because they're on social media a lot, because they say they're furlough, so they don't have they've got loads of time, with their own thoughts, and they're comparing themselves, and that's a real problem for people at this time.
It is. I totally agree with you, because you're looking at a sanitized version of someone's life and comparing yourself against that. And, you know, I really do want everyone to take on board that social media is not real.
Yeah.
It's a perspective. It's an image of someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of people I've come across that post all these wonderful, positive, inspiring posts, and then you kind of catch up with them, and they're complaining about all kinds of different things. So this doesn't marry up, and it's okay. You know, there are times where you're going to feel like crap and you want to get off your chest. So I found that actually, one of the things that happened for me is quite early on in this experience. I was away skiing for a week, and obviously we didn't know it at the time, but the virus was spreading around the ski resorts like wildfire, and they shut the ski resorts down literally the day we were leaving. I got back, and like 4 days later, I came down with the virus. And you know, I'm perfectly fit and healthy. I've got no underlying health conditions, so I was just like, oh, I'll be fine. And I got pretty sick for a good few weeks, and it really did highlight some things for me, and particularly in the depths of that, where, you know, I was struggling to get out of bed. And, you know, forget like going onto Facebook. I'm just talking about WhatsApp. People sending you all these kind of crazy messages, and the amount of fear and panic that was going around. And I literally had to unplug from everything because it wasn't helping me. I just had to focus on myself. And I think one of the best things that's come out for me from this experience is I'm on social media a hell of a lot less. I check the news once a day just to see if anything important's happened. And I'm really using this time to focus on things that are going to uplift me mentally, physically, and emotionally, and dare I say it, spiritually. And I think this is one of the things that we have within our power. And you were talking about your routine and how you've been adapting. What would you say are the top 3 things that you are grateful for as a result of this experience with lockdown?
Well, that I'm actually practicing daily gratitude. I'm grateful for that. The word grateful. I think gratitude is so important right now because we do have, like you say, so much to be grateful for. I'm so grateful that my business is still running at full capacity. I know that so many businesses aren't, but through the work that we've been doing through the free helpline, yes, when I say full capacity, my staff are still at work. I'm not being paid, but you know, we're still open. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm just generally grateful for my friends and family, and we've all been so supportive with each other throughout this time. It's been so nice to see the people who check in, even the people who don't check in, but you know that are there, and that, you know, it's not a competition. And I think that's a real important thing to say as well, because, you know, we've all got our own journeys and our own challenges. But I have really spent. It feels weird because I haven't seen people, but I've actually spent quality time with people on voice call, on video calls, and, you know, like doing like Zoom quizzes, like little fun things that we just wouldn't have done. And we do every single Friday. Me and my friends have our Zoom quiz from 8 till midnight, and then the Zoom hangovers are real. I'm telling you now. There's still real hangovers. But you know what? Like those little things, I'm just really grateful to be surrounded by virtually really good people, and it's really made me see, I think, on a deeper level, how amazing my circle are. So yeah, I'm just super grateful for that.
And I think that's one of the other positive things that I'm seeing coming out of this is the sense of community is so strong. You know, up until this happened, I guess the only sort of precedence we had for this kind of an experience was Hollywood.
Yeah.
And if Hollywood taught us anything, you know, if there's some kind of a virus sweeping around the world, everyone's going to turn into zombies and start eating each other. Yeah, people are going to go mental and start looting and killing each other. None of that's happened. I haven't seen a zombie yet. I don't know about you, but, you know, there's too many zombies around. No more than usual anyway. I live in London. Most people walk around like this all day. So they're pretty much already zombies anyway. So that's been really positive. Like, you know, the people have come out, and apart from that initial sort of panic buying, for the most part, people have been really supportive. You know, that Thursday, getting out and clapping the NHS, rallying, you know, reaching out and supporting vulnerable members, all these groups that have started to support the local communities. It's wonderful. And I think there's some real positive, beautiful things that have come out of this that I guess show the goodness in humanity, particularly. Like, you know, I can't speak for other countries, but I definitely know that that's happening here.
Yeah. No, but you know what? I agree with that, and I think I've been really moved by some of the initiatives that people have been running, whether it's helping the vulnerable, or putting on like food initiatives, or Like we ran a free advice line, and that was just simply like, just here's this email address, see what happens. And we didn't realize how many people like were so uncertain, and actually how grateful people were for that, because so many people were like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get paid, I don't know if this or that. And actually, when you've got a family, or whether you've got a family or not, you know, just generally, if you don't know what's happening with your job, it's a really scary time. And so, you know, we can't, we're all working, so we couldn't volunteer, but we wanted to give something back. And, you know, over 1,000 people have come through that now. It's madness. And you just think, I can't believe like how many really needed that support. And obviously, like, if you think you might be losing your job, you're not going to ring a solicitor up and pay them the hourly rate, because it's ridiculous amounts of money for most people. So I think there is a great sense of community, and I think everyone is really appreciative of as well. I think it goes both ways. So, you know, like the NHS staff have been so appreciative of the work, you know, the stuff that people have been doing, and the claps and stuff like that. So yeah, I do. I think it's there's a real nice, like, I don't know, when I hear the claps, I get like the goosebumps on my arm. Do you know what I mean? That kind of.
No, I had a tear in my eye the first time it happened. It was beautiful, and it just showed that, you know, when we want to, we can really come together and work together to do something good. And this wasn't the government. It wasn't like, you know, some organization. It was just like everybody coming together and standing up to contribute to doing something beautiful like that. And then you got individuals like Captain Tom, and there's been so many beautiful stories that have come out of this.
So good. So yeah. And do you know what? It's nice to focus. And when you're talking about news, and you said you only watch the news one day a week, that was one of our things within the firm. So I have anxiety, a lot of my team do, and we're really conscious that things like the scaremongering and the fear side of it can be too much. So I actually don't watch the news at all. We have a rotation in our team, and some of our team will watch the announcement. And then we do like an update on it, and then send it to the rest of the team, and we take it in turns. And that's it. And actually, that's all you need to know. Like, what else do you need to know? And I say that, but I've been on the news, so sometimes watch it.
I hope it wasn't like, please look out for this person, wanted, dead or alive. Kind
no. Okay, just there's a lot of I think when the furlough stuff first came out, people were, because it was so like the guidance was so unclear, they wanted legal experts to come on and talk about it and take questions live on air. So I've done quite a lot of that, which has really taught me a lot. I mean, I had to learn it all pretty much on the go as well. Like, it was a new concept. We haven't had it before, but definitely learning a lot of public speaking skills, and learning like all my media skills. So yeah, it's given us an opportunity to do things I probably wouldn't have been on the news that much, you know, prior to that. So, you know, there's loads of benefits from our perspective, and, you know, but I think there's a way to look at it, and, you know, it is sad. There's a lot of death, and there are a lot of things happening, but equally, like you say, there are all these opportunities for people, and there's an opportunity within ourselves to, whether you want to grow yourself, like you say, spiritually or otherwise, there's a real opportunity here, whether it's time or whether it's even on your weekends, because we can't go out, we can't go anywhere. So even if you're saying you're working full time on a weekend, what else is there to do other than to develop yourself or just watch loads of Netflix? Because that's what I've been doing as well. I think the balance is good. That's really important, the balance.
Totally. I'm having to limit the amount of time that I'm doing things like Netflix, because otherwise you could just end up going down a bit of a black hole with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get yourself into a box set and emerge 4 days later.
That last week, and we watched Game of Thrones to, like, I think I'm on season 6 over lockdown. I mean, how have I watched it? Wow. For an hour an episode. But then I'm doing other stuff as well. But then, you know, some days I'm like, do you know what? I'm just going to have a lie in till 11 o'clock, and that's also okay. But you know, I think that's one of the things that social media doesn't help with, is this kind of, you've got to be productive and you've got to learn 10 languages. Well, that's great, but some people just don't have that in them, or don't have the time. So that's also okay.
And I do want to get into sort of, you know, your professional expertise. It's wonderful that you've had the chance to get on the news to share kind of your knowledge and the things that you've learned, because I think most of us are still trying to navigate this and really make sense of all of this, and how to kind of drive our businesses and our organizations through this. As with yourself, you know, my team is about the same size as yours. We've got people that are part of our team that are in different countries, and just trying to figure out sort of how do we work remotely. There are many members of my team that have never had to work remotely. I'm fortunate because I travel a lot. I've got experience of kind of having to work from a different location, from an apartment in another part of the world, and dialing into meetings. But some of my colleagues have always been office-based. So it's a very new experience for them. So I guess I just want to get a sense from you, number one, sort of how has this impacted your business and how have you navigated it? And the second question is, you know, there are a lot of people that follow our various channels that are managers within larger organizations or maybe business owners that are also trying to make sense of this situation. I just want to get your input in terms of the impact of mental health from a legal perspective, particularly for our UK-based followers. You know, what do we need to be aware of? And what can we do to ensure that we are building the resilience of our team and our organization to navigate this? So I guess starting with the first question is, how are you looking at this within your team, within your organization?
So I set Thrive up 2 years ago with a view to allowing people to work fully flexibly. So we are the only law firm, again, that does that. So our staff worked remotely already. So we were really lucky. Our whole system, I say lucky, you know, you create your own luck. But, you know, we set it up in the way that, you know, everything was cloud-based. We're completely paper-free. So when we had the go work from home, I was already at home. So half of my team were. Everybody's got laptops. So I just said, fine, guys, just take your stuff. And once lockdown's over, I'll see you back in the office. And actually, so from a technical perspective, it was fine. All of our processes didn't need updating, and everything was pretty streamlined. And also, our clients are used to us working from home. And that's another thing, is that expectation when you ring the phone and someone's not there. Our clients are used to that. They'll say, oh, Lycia's not in the office today, but we'll email her and get her to call you. So I think because that's our culture, that was actually okay for us. In terms of clients, though, I know that a lot of our clients did struggle with that, or just generally the general public where we've been advising people, just because they didn't have enough equipment. People weren't sure of like who to report to or what the processes were. So I think that's been a really big challenge in terms of the shift. Obviously, getting the equipment and things has been a challenge, but now they've got all of that.
May I ask you a quick question? Just sorry to interject, but you were talking about that your team are used to working remotely, but some of your clients aren't so comfortable with it. Can I ask, how do you stay in touch with your team, and you know, what platforms or technologies are you using? Because some people are concerned about that.
So we have WhatsApp group. That's a team WhatsApp group, and we just did loads of video calls, and then we realized we had Microsoft Teams. So we're like, oh, why are we using this? So over the past few weeks, we've just been utilizing that, setting up workflows. So within Teams, you can set up group chats, so you can chat to each other rather than sending emails. I really hate emails. I think it's just unnecessary admin, and if you can replace it with a quick call or a voice note, like I love a voice note. So we love a voice note in our teams, because when we're talking about a case, it's so much easier to just voice note what you're thinking about into your phone, and then that person, when they're free, can pick it up, rather than scheduling fixed calls, because sometimes you just need to do it there and then.
Absolutely.
Like you would in the office, you'd go, oh, Jodie, what's that thing? And then you just have that conversation. So to kind of keep that conversational kind of background stuff that we chat about, whether it's cases or otherwise, we use the WhatsApp group. For more work stuff where it's more flow in terms of like a case or a project that we're working on, we use Teams, and then we use video calls as instead of actual calls wherever possible, so that we're seeing faces. And I think that's really important, so people actually get dressed.
from the waist up.
I want to think about that though.
So I've got a couple of questions on that, because these are some of the things that have come up for us already. Firstly, Zoom. We've had a lot of kickback from clients around Zoom and the security issues, particularly some of our international clients. There are many of our clients in the Middle East that will refuse to use Zoom. From your perspective, is there anything we should be concerned or aware about using platforms like Zoom or other third-party platforms?
No, not necessarily. I know that people are really concerned about Zoom. I think they are fixing the data issues. I think one of the main tips I'd give to employers is make sure you have a really clear data protection policy. You should already have that in place, following from GDPR a few years ago anyway. But you must have that updated because it might not cover people working from home using personal laptops or using laptops for personal use. So you need to update that. You also need to make sure all the devices everyone's working on have the correct software to protect from viruses and firewalls as well. I think that's just been something that often where people have just gone and worked from home, the technicalities and the procedural stuff and data security has been an issue. So if you have some of those things in place, it should prevent it. Obviously, you can't help certain things where you've got hackers, but I think generally it's okay. Like I said, we've been working from home and we've never had any issues. I've used Zoom loads, but we don't use it as a platform just because we get Teams already with our system that we've already paid for, which I didn't know about. So that's another benefit to lockdown. Ways of working.
We're the same. Teams has been a revolution. We've also got this platform that we're recording on today, which is our internal platform. So we've got a couple of different options. But yeah, that was something that came up for us a bit previously. We've based on some of the feedback we've got, we don't need to use Zoom anymore because we've got options, and we've also now got Adobe Connect. But the other thing I wanted to pick up on, you mentioned about WhatsApp groups. Now, we've had some clients that report concerns around this, or employees citing concerns, saying, well, it's a personal mobile. You can't force me to be on a work WhatsApp group.
Do you know what? I mean, I think if you're going to use a WhatsApp group and it does go to a personal number, I do think you have to, first of all, make it clear what the boundaries are. So don't just WhatsApp people on a Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. That's their time. So I think you need to restrict when you use it and encourage people not to post in that group. We have a really close-knit small team, and we use the WhatsApp group to, like, if we've seen something like a really cool article, or we've seen like that we might want to post in one of our various networking groups, people are like, have you seen this? So it's more that type of thing that we use the WhatsApp group for, to kind of keep in touch on a more colloquial level. We have a marketing group, and then we have a fee earner group as well, so for the solicitors, so that we can voice note. Actually, everybody likes it, but my team are all really young, so they're just like, well, we live on WhatsApp, so that's what we know. So I'm trying to push them onto Teams. I'm like, come on, guys, we've got this. But it's an adjustment for people. But I hear you on that, because I'm really bad for constantly coming up with ideas and then putting them in the WhatsApp group. And I have to, if it's a weekend, I have to put it in my notes, and then I have to send it in the WhatsApp group on a Monday, because what I have to remember is, just because my brain doesn't stop working doesn't mean my staff need to hear about it.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. And I've faced the same challenge, and I've really had to kind of restrict WhatsApp. And obviously being able to use Teams as a communication channel means that we can keep WhatsApp kind of for fun or light-hearted stuff, and Teams for other things. But I guess the question I'd like to ask you from your professional perspective, if you've got somebody out there who's a manager or a business leader that is looking to use these kind of channels to communicate with their staff, from a legal perspective, do people have the right to refuse? Can we? I've come across stories of people being forced to join WhatsApp groups on personal mobiles and things like that. So, what kind of advice should we be giving employers and managers and leaders with regards to communicating to people on their personal devices?
Okay, so I think employees need to be realistic at this time. We're in lockdown. Employers can't afford to get everyone a new mobile phone, and the reality is, you can mute those conversations as well. The way that I would address this from a legal perspective is to ensure that it's fully dealt with within your policy. So a social media policy would probably be the one where I would include the WhatsApp group, and make it clear what the purpose of that group is and communicate that to people. I don't think it's reasonable for people to say, well, it's my personal mobile, and okay, so if that's the case, we're all in unprecedented times. So I would see that as being unreasonable. I don't think there's, the fact that you can mute it that you can mute that group, can't you? So you don't have to respond. If you can choose whether you respond, and you can choose whether you get the notifications. So I think there's an element of you just being proactive as an individual about that, and actually understanding some of the pressures that businesses have right now. And actually, if they're trying to implement something that's new and you don't like it, try to put yourself in the business's shoes. I think I've been saying that a lot to employees, because there's a lot of people stamping their feet at the moment, but actually businesses are doing what they can with what they've got. And actually, if they find that that's an easy way to communicate, then just try it, just give it a go. But I think from a business perspective, do try and put it in a policy, or at least put a bulletin out or an email out to people saying this is why we want to use it. Like, it's about communication. Like, don't just expect them to use it and then be concerned that they then don't want to engage in that process. If you communicate properly, explain why you're going to do it, how it will work, that you don't expect them to use it all the time, and then there are ways they can turn it off, then I think that's a really reasonable management instruction. So refusing that could be seen as unreasonable.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that. And that's something that's come up a couple of times regarding sort of communication. So that's great advice. And just going back to the second part of the question, so what other things should employers be aware of with regards to sort of employment law and the impact that working from home has had in terms of sort of communication, and anything else that you feel is really important for us to share with the viewers today? Okay,
so I think the first thing I would be encouraging people to do is working at home assessments. So understanding from a physical and mental perspective, is that person okay? Do they have the equipment? Are they sitting correctly? What we don't want is a workforce coming back who are then physically and emotionally and mentally not fit to work. So the starting point has to be conduct those assessments. They're relatively easy to do. You can get templates online. We can help with them. But basically just really check in with those individuals so they feel like they've not just been chucked at home and expected to crack on, that they actually understand what their obligations are, and that you care about their workstation. And it sounds like simple things, but if they're working on a laptop on their sofa, they're not going to have a good back after 8 weeks or whatever. So that's the first thing I would say.
So on that point, can I just interject with a question? So the DSE requirements, is that valid even if people are working from home? Yeah. Do we still have a legal obligation?
Yeah, so there's a legal obligation, just like there is with all obligations, regardless of where you work. Obviously, if the individual isn't, if they do a DSE assessment and they choose to sit on their sofa, it's a slightly different thing. The point is that the employer have made that effort, and they've gone through that assessment with the employee and told them what they expect. And I think from an employer's perspective, it reduces the risk from their perspective. If you're looking at it as a business, as an individual, you're also reducing the risk of any injury. And I think that's really, really important. But we all have an obligation on ourselves. We can't put all of this on businesses. If you're working from home and you're choosing to not follow the guidance that your employer have given you and sit on your sofa and, have your legs up or whatever, that's absolutely fine. But then you can't then go and say, well, oh, I've got a bad back and I'm going to sue my employer. It wouldn't work that way. So I think it swings and roundabouts. And I think there's got to be a level of ownership from the individual on that. But I would say to cover your back and also to protect your staff, you do need to start looking at, if you haven't already, looking at DSE and home working assessments. So there's a couple of different areas that kind of extend a little bit further than just the DSE, because home working is about taking the breaks and all the other stuff as well.
Sure.
So the other thing I would say about assessments is mental health risk assessments. So these are, you've probably heard of stress risk assessments, and they're mandatory. You have to conduct those anyway. But I encourage people to do full wellbeing assessments. So it looks holistically at all areas of the workplace and all the stresses for that individual. And that individual gets a report at the end of it. It's fantastic. It's an amazing company that we use, and I can share details afterwards. But basically, they get a self-care report on specifically what they need, 3 things they need to work on. So an example might be, they're not moving enough. So every half an hour, set an alarm and go walk around the house. Just little small changes that can have a positive impact on the individual. It'll also highlight where someone has a mental health condition. So it's built on with medical practitioners with algorithms. So it's really, really good assessment. And then the other side of it is the employer get a report. So this is what's really helpful for home working, is the employer get a report and it tells you on a percentage of the 3 areas you need to work on. So then you can provide that training for individuals while they're home working remotely. So we're encouraging people to have general mental health awareness training and mental health champion training anyway. You can do that remotely. There's loads of places. You'll probably have loads of ones. We've got loads of different resources that we use. But there's also more specific stuff like resilience or sleep or neurodiversity or all these different areas that you're probably not aware of until you actually ask your staff. So putting a yoga class on is great, but if you're going to pay someone to do it, is that the right investment of your time and money? And that's where I would say the assessments will really help you to target and support your staff so they feel heard while they're at home.
So yeah, let's talk about assessments, because that's something we've been campaigning for, and this is something that we have been developing for 17 years. Yeah. We work very closely with the health and safety executive. In fact, Peter Kelly, who's the guy that created the stress management standards framework, is someone that I know very well personally. And this is where we've not often agreed, because his perspective is that it is a legal requirement to risk assess for stress, whereas my interpretation of the law is that we are required to provide a workplace that's safe and healthy and assess all risk, of which stress is one of them. So for me, in my reading of the law, it's implied, but it's not explicit. And this is where we've had a lot of different thoughts and opinions on this, and also legal experts have interpreted that law in different ways as well. So I'd love to get your perspective, because as I said, I'm yet to get a definitive response that is in the UK today is a legal requirement to risk assess for stress and mental health.
So on the HSE website, it does indicate that it is, and I think that's why a lot of people say it is, but it's not written into legislation.
It's not at all. Yeah.
So it's guidance. What I would say though is the Equality Act is in place, and stress can lead to mental health conditions which can be a disability, and you have to make adjustments for disability. So the reason we say to do the risk assessments, and the reason I've been campaigning, I'm campaigning for it to be mandatory in every workplaess. And how are you actually? Amazing. I didn't know.
We need to talk and join forces, but yeah, we'll pick that conversation up.
Yeah. So we've been campaigning for that, and I think the reason why I think it's so important is if you don't ask the question, you first of all don't have the conversation ever, because no one's going to say to their employer, "I'm feeling anxious about work," because they'll think, "Well, it'll affect their performance or promotion or whatever," and you know all of this, but for the people listening, it's really important to create that safe space. And what this allows people to do is to be open, honest, and it allows the company to really understand, because most companies don't think their staff are stressed, and you would be so surprised. Out of the risk assessments we did with our clients, there was suicide contemplation, all sorts of stuff came out of it, and they're like, "Oh, we thought our staff were fine," and it's like, yeah, because you don't ask them. So they're not going to tell you that that's how they feel openly, because why would you tell your boss? Because that's not the environment that we have created in this country. So I think it is really important that we do these risk assessments. That's really important. And I think now more than ever, because we're not seeing people. So someone saying they're fine on a Zoom call, that's great. But you don't know how they're feeling. They might be living on their own. They might not see another human being for the next 8 weeks because they might be self-isolating. They might be shielding but still working. And so you've really got to think about what are the challenges. So we did our assessments in February, just before lockdown, but we were in the office then. So I said to my team, right, we're doing them again next week, because all of our challenges are different. So all of us are doing this. I do the assessment as well. And I think it's important that we do that, because I want the self-care part of it. I'm like, right, what do I need to work on? Because we all it changes. It's like our mental health isn't linear, and it goes up and down, and I think we are all affected in different ways by different things at different times, and that's why the assessments are really helpful to do them on a regular basis.
No, totally. And I'm singing absolutely from the same hymn sheet as you. This is something we've been campaigning for as I said, for 17 years now. And I think where we've really turned a corner is being able to attach the health of the individual, the health of the team, the health of the people in general to the performance of the business. And we've now got sort of clear metrics to show, to evidence a strong and robust business case, but also to predict future challenges. So based on what your scores are today, here's the kind of things that you're likely to face in the future, whether that be high staff turnover or failure to innovate, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is where there is a tremendous opportunity, particularly now where people are under more pressure, where things have changed radically, to look at, I don't care who you are, unless you've got bottomless pits of money, every single one of us on this planet that's involved in some level of business or the other are going to have to think really hard about how do we rebuild and navigate beyond this, unless you're selling dumbbells, because then you've made £20 million.
You're winning, aren't you? Either that or Amazon, they're winning right now.
Absolutely. I was a little bit slow to the party, and a couple of weeks after my gym closed down, I was like, I could really use some dumbbells, and I went online to look for them. £1,000, like literally. Forget illegal drugs. If you want to be in the black market right now, get yourself a lorry load of dumbbells, and you've made it.
Do you know what though? Talking about the community spirit stuff that we talked about before, we contacted a couple of local gyms, and I did I said to them, if there's any way I can help you with your furlough or whatever, and could I hire some off you, so that you make some money? And they were like, oh no, you could just have them, it's fine. So they just had like an inventory, and they just gave people a load of dumbbells, which I just thought was so nice, because they can't use them. So I've got a load. I made a home gym. I've got a boxing bag and everything. I'm like, yes.
Well, I've had to be creative. I've got a water softener in the house, and the salt blocks are 4 kilos each. So if I've got 3 bags in each hand, I'm doing like basically weights with salt blocks, and it works, But and I think this is where, before Amazon, what would we have done? We would have got creative. We would have been inventive, and people would have found a solution. I think we've got an opportunity here. And just coming back to some of your points around sort of where we are within our organizations, I think there's a lesson there about being creative, being inventive. Yeah. There may not be a ready-made solution and a template out there, so that we get to create one.
Yeah, and I think that's the key here, is that the businesses who will thrive after this are those who are really innovating and really seeing the opportunities at this time. So even where you're furloughing all your staff, it's still even if your business is shut, there's still an opportunity for you to do things. Look at all the food industry, how they're saying, right, okay, well, we'll do something for delivery, or we'll do this, or we'll do that, and they're changing their model. They're quickly adapting, and that's so important. As business owners, as entrepreneurs, as managers, we need to adapt the way we do everything in the best way. If we don't do it, then we won't survive, because ultimately we are, the reality is it's hard right now. We're feeling the pinch. We haven't got any paying clients coming in because people can't afford to pay to be made redundant. It's like the whole reason we made redundant is they've got no money. So it's really a hard time. But ultimately, there are other things you can do. And one of the examples, we're actually already doing this. We started it in January, but we've been developing an online mental health training platform with guides, toolkits, download documents, videos, and everything to do with home working, mental health, risk assessment, everything all in one place. So the tech's all finished now. So we're just finishing all the content. So it's been a real opportunity to actually grow the content and make it relevant to now. So we added all the stuff around furlough, home working, and it's really just equipping people with the skills so that they can come out of this, because everyone's focusing on, this is what we're doing now. But what we've got to realise is we're going to go back to a workplace that isn't going to be the same. It's probably businesses are going to have to restructure. They might even rethink and go, do you know what? I don't need that big fancy office anymore, because it seems to still work while everyone works at home. And so businesses are going to think in different ways. So people need to be mindful that that's the reality. Is one, they might not have a job to go back to, but they won't know till just after furlough ends. Businesses need to be thinking about this in the foresight of the fact that there's going to be a lot of change. And actually, if you don't tell people in enough time, then you're going to damage that working relationship if you want to retain that individual. So I think communication at this time is really important. And if they are anticipating change, I think you need to really think about how you're going to consult with your staff remotely. So for the purposes of furlough, you can consult whilst they're on furlough. You don't have to wait until they come back. I don't personally, in my legal opinion, think that it amounts to work. It's a process. You're not making money from furlough, from doing the consultation. And I think it's the right thing to do. Don't just issue people with letters. So as an employer, I think we have an obligation to be fair to people and, take those steps and consult with people if you are going to either lose their job or change their role or require them to continue working from home, because it's a fundamental change to their role. So you've got to think about So your employer obligations don't fall away because you're on lockdown. They still exist. And we're seeing a lot of issues around whistleblowing, where people are not being requested to go to work, where someone's had COVID or they're not practicing social distancing, and all the law around that is rife at the moment. Discrimination for disabled people, for pregnant women. So much of this going on because people are just not thinking, they're just doing. So I think my message to employers is really think about what you're doing and really communicate that in a way that's fair and clear to your staff. Because actually that will avoid problems down the line, because they can still bring those claims, whether you've reduced your team or you're still trading or whatever, they can still go ahead with that. So just be really careful.
So be mindful of time. I appreciate that you're a very busy person, Jodie. I just want to kind of capture some nuggets from you. So if we've got employers, managers, business leaders that are listening today, what are the 3 top things that they should be thinking about, should be aware of, or taking action against?
What, during lockdown or just generally? We say, yeah,
we're talking about particularly given the current circumstances. What are the 3 things that we may need to think about now that we may not have thought about before? We may not have a policy or process around it.
Yeah, I think mental health is a massive one. I think we need to just be proactive and encourage people to practice self-care and see it as a positive rather than a negative. I think there's a lot of negativity around at the moment, and actually empowering people to look after themselves and providing training on that.
Just on that point, before we progress, what about if your staff are furloughed? Are we allowed to communicate with them? Are we allowed to engage them?
God, yeah, definitely do that. So this is a huge thing that people are not doing, is they're so scared about what does work mean, because it's not defined, that people are not communicating. You must communicate with your staff, and you must treat them in every other, in the same as people working from home, working in the office. You must treat them in the same way. They are still employed. If you do not communicate with your furlough staff, you will I personally think you will cause significant damage to their mental health, because they will be excluded. And you can also use this opportunity, just on this point, furlough, you can still train people. So even if your whole business is shut and you're thinking, what can I do? Use this time to train them, because they're all sat home doing nothing. So you can train them and still get the money from the government. So use this opportunity, train them, work on resilience, work on mental health, work any area of your business where you're thinking, do you know what, I've really been meaning to do that, but that's 2-day course and I don't really have time. Do it. So furlough or home working, do it. Definitely, 100%. So that was actually going to be my second one, was about training. So boom, straight into the next one. Awesome. Absolutely smash the training right now, because it's a real opportunity when times are quieter to really upskill your workforce, because I think a lot of training falls away because everyone's so busy. And now we've got that time, think about ways, and by doing the risk assessments, you can identify the best ways to train your staff. I think that's the key thing. And then the other thing is, I think people really need to start thinking as a business, what next? So where are you going to be in 6 months' time? Really start thinking about, can I afford to keep all these staff? Am I going to retain my office? Am I going to still work in the same way? You as a business owner have a duty, I think, right now during lockdown, to think, where I'm going to be next month, the month after. You need to start looking at another 6-month strategy, because every single month is going to be different, and you need to work out and work it backwards when you start communicating with your staff. And it's really important that communication continues, and it's in a way that is actually meaningful. Just sending emails to people is not the way to do it. Really try and be creative here, and I think make people feel like you care, because if you don't, people might find another job. That's the reality, is they might say, actually, this is a bit crap. So while they're off for 5 weeks on furlough, they might look for another job. You just don't know. So I think reality is, if you want to retain your good people, is communicate with them, train them, and be there for them, and really understand what their role is going to look like when they come back.
Absolutely, that's fantastic advice. So one of the things we've been doing is we have a daily team meeting at 9:30 every morning. So it's just a video call. We're all on the line, and it's just, what's on your bridge for today? Like what are you dealing with today? What did you get up to yesterday? What do you want to leave in the circle? So stuff to offload. What support do you need from your colleagues? And 2 words, just describe where you are right now. It's simple. It doesn't take more than half an hour, and everyone will get a few minutes to share. But that's been working really, really well, because we all connect with each other. Friday at 4 o'clock, we do our gin o'clock, which is just a kind of a same sort of platform, but we just big up your buddy. Who do you want to celebrate this week? And it could be, my colleague Holly has been really great at managing my diary and looking after all my appointments, or it could be talking about things that inspired us this week or where we've made a difference. It's just like celebrating. And these things we'd always do them in the office. We might gather around the pool table and have a drink and a chat, but we're now doing it virtually. And I found those things have really helped to keep people's spirits up, but also have given me a sense of where people are. If someone's not great, you can interject.
Yeah, it's a really good way to check in. One of the things that I'm about to do, so I don't know when you're releasing this, but I'm about to send little cards to my staff, just saying how grateful I am for them. So I've just bought some cards, and it's just like a little note about the things that I think they've done really well in lockdown. And it's just like, so they'll get that in the post, and I'll just be like, oh my God. And actually it takes 2 minutes to do, but actually it's just it's something that they're not expecting, and it's just something nice to do. And I think there are lots of little initiatives that you can try and think of, and I think I love your idea of actually big up your buddy. I love that. That's great. I'm gonna steal that.
Well, I'm going to steal the cards, so we have to put this out in a few days. So you can to buy and send the cards.
I'm super grateful, look, and they're rainbow.
Oh, where'd you get them from? I'm going to get some.
So I got them from Paper Chase before. I actually got them from Paper Chase before lockdown. So a while ago. I've been meaning to do this for ages, so I put them on my desk to make sure I do them today.
And they're rainbow, which is wonderful because that's the colour of gratitude at the moment. They're so fitting and beautiful.
I know, literally. So because I do stuff like the other thing we'd have is a smile file. So we have a massive file, and every time we get positive feedback or either of us do something good, we say, right, print that off and put it in your smile file. So every Friday I make sure my staff spend an hour, and I just bought some Pritt sticks because I didn't have any sellotape left, to stick stuff in there. So if we've been in the media or we've been we receive a lot of positive feedback online, I'm like, right, you put that in your smile file because that's what you've done. And it's a really good way of focusing at the end of the week on all the positives that you've done, and actually at the end of the year you can flick through it and be like, I did all that. So yeah, that's another one.
Awesome. We've got so many similar ideas. We've got a gratitude box where literally people put a post-it note when something good's happened or someone's done something nice or they were proud of something. And once a quarter, we empty it and we read it out. And it's nice because, you're getting picked up by your colleagues. We put that in a nice sort of portfolio that sits on our reception desks so people can come in and see that. We also do things like Employee of the Quarter, and you just remind me, we're due an Employee of the Quarter where you vote, so it's anonymous, but if you win a duvet day, you get a certificate to put on your desk, and you get to write on your signature, I'm Employee of the Quarter. And it just, little things like that don't cost anything, but can make people feel really valued. And I think now more than ever, when you're not able to communicate with people in the way that you might go over to someone's desk and say, that was a really good job, or give them a high five, or give them a hug or whatever. It's to ensure that we are letting people know how much we are valuing and grateful for them. So I love that. I love some of your ideas.
You need to wait and put this out in a few days. Let me post these first.
well, like I said, I need to get someone posted myself before I put this out. Okay, good. Otherwise, it's going to let the cat out of the bag.
Deal. Okay.
So listen, I could genuinely talk to you all afternoon, and it's been so much fun, and I would love to have more conversations with you in the future. We'll definitely pick up on some of the things that we've been talking about. But I just want to finish by, if people want to find out more about you, Jodie, about Thrive Law, about some of the work that you're doing, how do they do that?
Okay, so you can follow us on social media. So on Twitter and Instagram, I am Jodie Hill. It's easy to find, and then Thrive_Law, and then everything else is on our website, which is www.thrivelaw.co.uk. All of our blogs and stuff are on there as well, and also our coronavirus free helpline is on there. So if anyone has any employment issues and they want some free advice, use the advice line. I've got a team of people just waiting for people to come and get the free advice. So it's just coronavirus@thrivelaw.co.uk, and please use it. And I'm also doing quite a lot of videos. I think you've seen a couple of these. So if you go on my YouTube channel, it's just Jodie Hill, and have a look on there. I'm debunking some of these areas, and I also do quite a bit of stuff about gratitude, self-care, mental health. So there's a bit of employment law stuff, and then there's a bit of mental health and well-being and self-care. So yeah, keep in touch.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure that you're going to get people making use of that support line. I think the first person that will be making that call is our office manager, Laurie, because she's always looking for advice. So expect to be hearing from her. She's going to be using it all the time, I'm pretty sure. So listen, it was a real pleasure. Stay safe, stay healthy. Wishing you the best of luck. And as I said, we will 100% get you back again to talk more in the future.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
Take care.